Okay, this is round two of the news roundup. This is June the 2nd, 2012, and again, my name's Michael Gillum. So we just got done talking about Murray Rothbard and some of his views on the historical narrative that's kind of behind what the whole Bilderberg group is about. So let's go ahead and move on. We talked a little bit about human barcodes. And our next item is straight from the mainstream press, from Reuters. Greeks count mental health cost of a country in crisis. So basically what's going on is Greece is, because they've experienced not just this past year with austerity and with the total collapse of their government, they've had 8 hard years of recession, and it's really taken its toll. Behind every suicide in crisis-ridden countries such as Greece, there are up to 20 more people desperate enough to have tried to end their own lives. So there's a ton of people that are committing suicide in Greece. There's a lot of attempted suicides. This is what is really going on with austerity. This is what the German banks and what the euro banks are forcing on the Greek people. Remember, this isn't Greeks' debt that they're trying to make them pay back, and they're putting the squeeze on them with stuff like austerity just so they can squeeze more money out of them and get them onto another debt contract that helps out the banks. And look what's going on in Greece. I mean, there's a lost generation, okay? There's young people that can't find work, and they end up doing drugs and hanging out on the street corners. And a lot of them end up killing themselves. And I bring this up because this is where we could be headed here in the United States once something really bad happens to us. So once our government and once our economy heads into this really huge recession, remember that the banks are going to try to get us on some debt contract to try to squeeze more money out of us and make them even richer. And this is illegitimate. You know, these banks, they're just trying to get Greece to pay back. Now, Greece has a history of being really profligate and spending a lot. They did that with the drachma before they got on the euro. And yeah, they own a little piece of that debt, but we're talking like 92% of the debt that they say that's owed to them by Greece is not their debt. It's debt that's been accrued by the banks, and it's debt that other countries have racked up. So this has a huge social cost, and everybody's trying to get away from austerity. They're voting out politicians that are in support of austerity. We saw Sarkozy lose the election in France, and now looks like Angela Merkel has lost a really crucial election, kind of in the primaries over in Germany. So her head's kind of on the chopping block. I think it's a good thing. The people need to stand up, and they need to do what Iceland did and say no to these banksters, say no to this debt, and just start off with a clean slate. So if Greece wants to save its youth and it wants to keep its people alive and stop having them kill themselves, they should get out of the euro, return to the drachma, and return to the sound money practices as outlined by Austrian economists like Murray Rothbard, who we were talking about earlier. Okay, next in news, we're going to talk about Syria. Now, if you remember last week, the Hula massacre, there was a massacre in the town called Hula where 109 people were killed by these terrorists. And I reported on it and told you all that the terrorists are not really working for Bashar al-Assad, who's the leader of Syria. They're actually funded by Western governments, and a lot of these guys are Al-Qaeda. And they're being pushed into Syria to create what looks like civil unrest produced by Assad's troops, when in fact it's totally manufactured false flag events created by Western governments in order to justify going to war with Syria. So this is from Reuters. It says here, Syria said on Thursday, okay, and this was posted on May the 31st, so that was Thursday. Syria said on Thursday a preliminary investigation showed that anti-government armed groups carried out a massacre last week in Hula region with the aim of encouraging foreign military intervention against the government. No kidding. So, I guess what they're trying to sell us is that we can't trust what Assad says about the Hula massacre, but they neither confirm or deny that the massacre was carried out by anti-government armed groups who are trying to encourage foreign military intervention in the country. So Reuters is just being really spineless here and not doing its homework. If they did any preliminary digging at all, they would find out that these anti-government groups, as they call them, are really terrorists. A lot of them are Al-Qaeda members who are the mercenary force that's been hired by Western governments, including the United States, to produce all of this chaos in Syria. So all these kids died just to drum up this war effort, just to get us to get into another war with Syria. I mean, it's like we're putting pressure on Iran, we're putting pressure on Syria. We're trying to turn the Middle East into this like horrible slave camp where all these disenfranchised, colonized people are just shoveled into these mass graves. It makes me sick. So we're going to keep talking about Syria because this is really important. This is how the empire really works, by creating this false flag stuff and trying to get us to sign off on these horrible wars. Okay, and not only is Syria suffering from these terrorism attacks, Syria-linked sectarian clashes rage in Tripoli, Lebanon. So this stuff is spilling out into Lebanon, and this comes to you from World Now. And it talks about these different groups that are, these two different Muslim groups that are attacking one another on the streets of Tripoli and Lebanon. And it says here, deadly sectarian street battles again engulfed Lebanon's northern coast of Tripoli on Saturday. The heavy fighting, including cross-neighborhood machine gun fire and rocket-propelled grenade attacks. Come on, people. How can these, like, third world country people, these street gangs, have machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades? I mean, of course these guys are just these terrorists that have spilled over into neighboring countries, and this whole area has just been turned into a horrible war zone. It says here that a lady and her son were killed by sniper fire. So this is what happens, is these countries are being colonized and turned into these horrible death camps just to get us to go into war, take the resources that we want, and leave a bombed out crater that was once a vital civilization. This is the cradle of civilization we're talking about. The Middle East. I mean, this is where it all began. I mean, when we moved into Iraq, at least the Nazis, when they took over countries, they left the museums alone, and they appreciated people's cultural heritage. I mean, we didn't even stop the looters from looting the Iraqi National Museum, and all of these priceless Babylonian artifacts have been destroyed because of our stupidity and because of our carelessness. Not our stupidity, not your and my stupidity, the stupidity of the American military that's been occupied by these foreign banking cartels and by representatives who are at the Bilderberg Group. Alright, so the last couple articles of news, we're going to talk about the cannibal surge that's going on. I guess there's a cannibal out of Canada. This guy ate one of his lovers. Cannibal on the run after warning the Sun, "I can't stop." So this weirdo sent the Sun, which is a British newspaper, this letter talking about how he loves to kill and how he can't stop. He ran out of Canada and now he's somewhere in hiding in Europe. this guy chopped up his boyfriend. I guess he's a gay porn star. Chopped up his boyfriend and ate him. And now he's on the run. He made this sick video of a kitten getting eaten by a python. Look at that there. What kind of a sicko makes a video about that? And this is the guy that he was with. He was a Chinese, I think a foreign exchange student who was murdered and eaten by this maniac. But it doesn't end there. I guess in Maryland, they got kind of a cannibal problem too. Maryland cannibal case. Suspect accused of eating heart, brains, and he ranted on Facebook about human sacrifice. And this comes from the New York Daily News, national section. So this guy, this is the cannibal here in case you can't tell. This guy ate this other guy, murdered him, and ate his heart and some of this other stuff. But he ranted all the time about cannibalism on Facebook. Look at this. Here's a picture of him painting his face. So the weirdos are out, man. I mean, last week we had the cannibal episode that happened in South Beach. And now we've got this Maryland cannibal and this other Canadian cannibal guy. So, I mean, I guess I don't know I have anything political to say about that. I mean, all I can tell you is that Western civilization's crumbling, and more of these weirdos are going to be emerging, and more of these horrible murders are going to be happening. So, you know, news of the weird, I guess. We don't want to spend a lot of time on that. It's not as important as Bilderberg or Murray Rothbard or human barcoding or Syria or any of the other stuff that we've talked about today. But it's just something to keep on your radar screen. So exercise your Second Amendment. Remember to carry your gun with you or you will get eaten by one of these weird guys. So I hope they catch this this guy. His name's Luca Magnotta. And if this guy's responsible for cannibalism like they say it is, I hope justice is served. So that's it. We're gonna wrap it up. Again, my name's Michael Gillum. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Join us next time on Night Watchman News. We'll give you all the news that the mainstream media is scared to tell you about. So have a good one, guys. We'll see you again.